2, 1.
All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Thank you all for being here. So today, traditionally for session 2, we would have 2 presenters. We typically have Brittany McPhee, who does a presentation on the client experience, and then Chris LaBella does a presentation on opportunities. Unfortunately, Brittany is not able to be on the call today. There was a little event over the weekend and she is not able to be here. So we will be sending you a link to a training presentation to view prior to our next training session. So today Chris LaBella is gonna start us off and dive into opportunities. I know that we sent an email last week with materials for you to review in advance of this meeting. So she will also be answering any questions you have regarding those materials, and so we have a little bit more time in the session than we do traditionally for opportunities, which is great because there's a lot of good material that Chris is going to be providing you with.
Excuse me, Dan Viles is having trouble logging in. I told him to try the SSL button on the website, but he's not able to get it to work.
Okay. Let's see, Heather, could you maybe reach out to him?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks for letting us know. All right. The other thing I did want to mention is, for this course, it is a course that everyone's required to attend all of the sessions. Some folks did miss last week. They'll let me know in advance, which is fine. If there's a circumstance a year that's unavoidable, life happens, right? But if you are going to be missing any upcoming sessions, please let me know in advance so that we can work something out. The other thing I did wanted to just reinforce is that because we do want people to be engaged, everybody's camera needs to be on. So there were some folks last week and again this week whose cameras either weren't on or aren't on now. If you don't have a camera, send me a note and we will make sure I'll follow up with you and figure out how we can get you a camera. But really the only 2 times a camera can't be on are if you don't have a camera or if you are driving in a vehicle. And of course, so we want you to not be visually engaging in the teleconference when you are driving a vehicle. So for those of you who don't have your cameras on, just send me a note at some point and we'll get it all figured out, but cameras do need to be on, okay? All right, so with those administrative items out of the way, I wanted to introduce Chris LaBella to you today. So Chris has been with the company for a while. She's in our marketing group. She's a guru of opportunities, and she's going to walk you through today what an opportunity is and how to prepare proposals and all kinds of other good stuff. So Chris, would you like to take it away?
Thanks, Kat. Appreciate it. So I am going to put you guys on the spot for a moment and ask that you use your reactions button and give us a thumbs up if you did do the prerequisite and watch either the CRM video or look at the manual or even try to do anything in Deltek. So give me a little thumbs up if you did that. I see quite a few. That's great. Good. All right. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. So yes, so today I'm going to talk with you a little bit more about opportunities and our go no-go process. And there have been some changes since that video and manual were made. So I probably will talk a little bit about some things that are different than what you may have seen, but none of the information that you watched or read about will not be helpful. Like all of that stuff is still pertinent and you will need to know that information. So let me share my screen here so that you can see things. There we go. Let's see, share. All right, hopefully you guys can now see PowerPoints. This in presentation mode. Are you still seeing the presentation? Okay, perfect. All right. So as Kat mentioned, unfortunately, Brittany is not with us today. She would normally talk about client experience first and kind of our sessions go hand in hand, and that's why they're actually on the same day. So once you do go through Brittany's presentation, some other things might make sense, but I will cover a few things while I talk about what she would have talked about as well. So we're going to go through the opportunity process. We're going to talk about business development and opportunities, the go, no-go process, and then proposal preparation. So for the opportunity process. So a lot of times we get asked, like, what's the difference between business development and marketing? And really, business development is how we're building our business, how we're making those relationships with people and organizations. And we need Deltek CRM to do that and be able to track all of those things that we're doing outside of our daily jobs, right? So we use CRM, and it is customer relationship management tool. And it's just so that everything's in one place. We don't have to have multiple spreadsheets and everything hanging out. So it's really just supposed to be a go-to center for all of that information. A lot of times we will get RFP information or requests for proposals through public notice or emails. We get alerts from the New York Contract Reporter, the GovWin system, or they may just be emailed from a client or colleague. And that's really how we're looking for opportunities. Some of you guys come across them yourselves and you pass them on to your pursuit manager or your marketing coordinator. And those are all good things to do. We want you to keep doing that. And then any time that we have a request for proposal or qualifications package where they're asking for resumes, project sheets, approaches, sort of that full scale proposal, that's going to be worked with your marketing coordinator or your marketing lead. And then, we do have sometimes where maybe you're just getting in addition to a project that you've already done, or you've already worked with this client and they just want to give us a job, which is always fantastic. And that might just be, they want a price proposal, and you would do a simple letter for that. So that's our letter proposal format. And those would go just usually through the project manager or whoever's leading the project, and marketing wouldn't need to be involved with that. One thing that comes up a lot is the conflicts of interest. We do have a municipalities conflict list on the intranet, and there is a link that we'll be sending you to. But that will ensure, always checking that list to make sure that we are not in conflict, and that we can work with either the client or, a certain service can do things with that client. So it's very, very valuable to make sure that you're checking the conflict list regularly, because it does get updated and changed. And then go, no go, certainly considering, division, department goals, the market, the location, relationships, the proposal effort, all those things go into the go, no go process and help us make a very informed decision on if we should be pursuing something or not. And then if needed, we can always have a meeting with the department leads, the PM, the technical staff, sometimes regional staff, and then marketing to really have a discussion, because sometimes there could be, maybe some, it's not as cut and dry as maybe it should be. So having those discussions can help us formulate a better answer to if we should be going after something or not. So this is just a little handy flow chart that we have developed that can kind of help you get from start A to start B. So, there's a couple different starting points here on the left. If the opportunity came in through business development or a client initiative, and then kind of works you through the flow chart. So I'm going to go through some of these steps as we talk about some of the other things, but this is just a resource for you to have that kind of shows the process sort of on one page and helps narrow that down for you. So BD and opportunities. So all of you hopefully have been into Deltek and have watched the video, or at least have had the opportunity to come in here through doing your timesheet or expense report. You should see on the left-hand side now an info center, which has multiple choices: clients, contacts, opportunities, employees. All of you should have access as PMs to that information now. If you do not have access or don't see all of those choices, you may have a few that aren't here, like marketing campaigns is specific to the marketing department. So you might not have all of these, but you should at least have clients, contacts, opportunities, and projects and employees. So if you don't see those, you can certainly send me a note or drop a line in the chat, and I will make sure that you get PM access. But that's really, when you come into Deltek, this will be your dashboard, and you'll see that info center information on the left. So what is CRM? As I mentioned, it is sort of a central location where we house everything in one place. So this includes opportunities, proposals, any BD activity, contacts, projects, LaBella employees, any of our prospects, clients. Everything is sort of in that one place for customer relationship management. Hopefully you all have seen this page on the internet. This is where we do store the resource information for you for CRM. There is the link to the video and the training manual, as well as some deep dives where we go into a little bit more information on certain topics. So if you're struggling with having to enter an activity for a golf tournament, we do have a like step-by-step guide that can show you how to do that. And then there's also a help button over here on the right, which is if you hit the flag it button, it'll actually pop up a box, and then you can enter some information, and that email actually goes to myself and Beth Kern, and we will look at it and see what we need to do to help you to get what you need. So what is a business development activity? So really this could be anything from attending an event, sponsoring an event, emails, phone calls, meetings with any BD intelligence. And that really boils down to what you think is something that's important that a client or prospective client may have told you about that you think another person needs to know. So if you were at an event and someone mentioned that they have a big project coming up, to build an 8-story building with, all the bells and whistles, obviously that's something that we might want to know about and keep on our radar. So that would be helpful to enter as a BD activity. And then that information would get shared with division directors, other project managers, and leadership. We run reports weekly. And so those would all show up on those reports. And so then someone can keep an eye on that information. Trade show intelligence. If you're at a trade show or a conference and you learn something about either a new client or, like I said, maybe another project coming up, that's always good to add. Any political contributions, we also track those so that we know who we're giving money to, when and why. And really, like I said, anything you think another employee should know about in the company to help them better do their job, and while we're working on other projects and trying to work up other work. So how do we enter a BD activity? So there's several different ways actually, and through the manual you'll see a different way, and we also have a deep dive which also goes through a couple different ways. But in this case, you can certainly do it through your employee record, which is a simple way to do that. So if you go to the Employee Info Center, and it may come up with your record automatically, but if it doesn't, you would go over to the right-hand side here in the search and just put in your last name and then hit enter, and then it should come up. You would then see your name listed here, and then you would go to the CRM Info tab, and on that tab is the activity grid, and this would show all the activities that are related to you. And then to do a new activity, you would click the insert button, and then it would bring up this pop-up box where you would then fill in all the information related to that activity and then hit OK. So you could put a subject, you could put the type, and there's many choices in the drop-down, email, phone call, meeting, all those types of things. You could link a client, you can link a contact. You can link a project if it's related to a project. You can link an opportunity if it's related to a proposal, but you can also leave those blank if it's not. You'll see the activity owner's name will show up here, and that's whoever the employee record is that you're on. So if if I'm entering an activity for someone else and I'm in my Deltec, my name is going to show up here, but I can change this to whoever's activity it actually belongs to. And then you can put the start time and the end time. And when you want to add notes, you can just hit the edit button down here and it'll bring up a word editor, and you can actually type right into that field, or you can also copy and paste. If you have other notes from a different program, like Outlook or Word, you can copy right out of that document and then paste it into the notes field, and then you hit OK, and it'll show up in your list here. So that's really how we do activities. Anybody have any questions on that before I move on? Saw some things in the chat here.
I just made a note. Some of you indicated you don't yet have the info center. So the way it works is if once you get a project assigned to you, you will get a call from your biller in accounting, and then that person will show you how to set up your dashboard and such and go through some training with you. So that's just want to let you all know that.
Okay. But if you feel that you should have had that access also, we can, Stacy Fries can turn that on for you as well. So we can figure that out. The go, no go process. So this is something new. We recently rolled out a new tab in CRM for the go, no go process. And we really are trying to implement this across the company because, you know, we have now grown to over 1,500 people. And that also means that there's so many opportunities out there and everyone looking for opportunities. And, you know, we still have a very small marketing team for the number of people that we have. And so to be able to chase every single opportunity that comes out would take a lot of manpower. It would take a lot of your time, my time, you know, a lot of people and resources in the company. And so we really want to make very informed and selective decisions on what we're going to pursue. And so we've implemented this go, no go process. And really, it's the first step in good quality, you know, project management, making sure we are going after the good opportunities. And good in this case could be, you know, making sure that we're going with good clients, good price, work we do well or want to further develop, and that there's no conflicts of interest. And then the two basic pieces to an effective go, no go opportunity vetting process is really baseline analysis for whether an opportunity seems prudent. So we have a scoring system that we use, and I'll show you that matrix in a second. And then communication amongst all potentially involved technical disciplines and those with geographic and or client specific information. This is really important because if you are looking at an opportunity, say that you're sitting in the Charlotte office, but you're looking at an opportunity for New York, you're not going to be able to make a really great decision because you don't maybe know all the climate and what's happening in that region. So someone in that area really needs to either chime in or lead that effort. So that's sort of why we talk about that. And then often we will meet as a team to talk through the RFP, and we'll make a decision based on an overall discussion and intelligence. And as I mentioned, the process is now live in Deltec, so you can see that. So here's what the scoring matrix looks like. It's very simple. There's 7 questions, and then you would give each question a 1, 2, or 3, 1 being negative, 2 is sort of neutral or in the middle, and then 3 would be positive. And as you read each question, each criteria has its own sort of discussion point of how you're going to make that decision. And then you would give it a rating on the right, and then those would add up to your score and then divide by 7. And if it's greater than 2, it has to be at least 2, I mean, to be able to move forward. That is sort of what we're basing it on. And then if it's less than 2, but you feel very strongly that you should still pursue it, it's something that would need to be discussed with the division director or your pursuit manager to determine, like, is it really something that we need to be going after and how it would fit into our timing and all those kinds of things. So why is it important? We should be selective on what we pursue as a company. You know, is it in our wheelhouse? Who will be the competition? Does it align with our goals and objectives? And will it be profitable? Certainly, those are all things that we evaluate every day when we're looking at these things, because we don't want to obviously waste your time or other resources unless there's a valid reason. Maybe we're trying to expand a particular service in a particular geographic region that we don't provide that service currently, or maybe we're just trying to move into a region and feel out the market at that time. So there are some reasons why, other reasons that can come into play, but these are really the top 4 that we look at. And it's important to identify if we don't have the capacity, time, or what the odds of winning are. Certainly that all plays into it. I know, the last few months we've been very busy across the board in all divisions, and everyone's been, there's people that have been working overtime, and just, we haven't had a lot of time to go after maybe some of those other opportunities where, aren't as viable, but we wanted to submit on. So we've been turning them down because we don't have the time to do that. And on average, it does cost $10,000 plus to put a marketing-led proposal together. That number is a few years old now, and I'm going to guess with inflation and some of the other things happening in the world today, that probably is actually creeping up more to like 15,000 to put a proposal together, if I had to guess. But that's really, my time or the marketing team time, your time, printing, binding, and believe it or not, clients are still asking for hard copies. So, it's just one of those things where just a lot goes into putting a proposal together. And that number is really for those full proposals, not just your letter proposals. Those are usually only a couple $1,000s usually. But, when we have many people involved, it's going to cost a lot of money to put those together. So to create an opportunity and get your P number, and hopefully you all have heard about your P number, you need that to charge your time on your timesheet. And that's how we track the proposals as well, is to get that P number. And there's just a few steps. I'm going to talk about them here, and then we'll kind of show you an example. So when you're in Deltek, you're going to go to your info center and you're going to select opportunities. And then it's really important to search to make sure that it hasn't already been entered. We have had some issues occasionally, because we are so large now, where maybe someone in the southern tier is looking at something and somebody in the Albany area is looking at the same opportunity, and they think each other should lead it, and so they both try to put something in. We actually just had that happen the other day. So so we just want to make sure that you do the search, so then you can see if someone's already kind of taking the lead on it, and then if not, certainly you can then create a new opportunity by selecting new and then entering all of the pursuit information as required. I did not mention on the last screen, but anything that's yellow highlighted is a required field. So there are several in the opportunity, which I'll show you, that are required to be filled out. The stage must be set to proposal in order to generate that P number. So if you select pre-proposal, or I forgot what the other stage is. There's a couple that are like before it gets to a proposal, you are not going to get your P number. It was only when it's changed to proposal and you hit the save button that it'll generate an email that gets sent to accounting, and then accounting will actually give you that P number. So which is short for promotional project number. So that won't happen unless you select proposal. I've had a few people reach out to me, I didn't get my P number. Do you know what's going on? And it's because they didn't set the stage to the right thing. So that's a normal thing to happen. So just be cognizant of that. So here's an example of what will look like when you go into the Opportunity Info Center. So as you can see here at the top, it says new opportunity. So nothing has been saved yet. And then, as I mentioned, all of these yellow highlighted fields are the required fields. So on the General tab, we ask that you fill in the proposal name and make sure that you're either using the RFP or whatever documents you have to specify the full name, and give it some identifiers. Sometimes we have so many things in Deltec. So for AE services, if you ever did a search for AE services, you would see a lot of things come up. So if you do have something a little more generic like that, make sure you're either putting a year or part of the client's name or some sort of an abbreviation, so that's easier for you to recognize and find. But typically you would just, put the name of the proposal here. The LaBella organization is the division and location that's actually pursuing that project. So I'll show you an example on the next page. And then you'd also have the primary client. So that's who the proposal is going to. And then when you put in that, it actually makes the primary contact active. So you're going to add a contact for them as well. The principal is usually the LaBella person who has the authority to sign on behalf of LaBella for this. So most cases we would either use a division director, or anybody who's a vice president or higher would typically show up in the principal field. Your project manager is hopefully either yourself or someone else who is going to be managing the project. Your proposal coordinator would be your marketing staff that you're working with. If it is a letter proposal, you can put yourself here as well because marketing is not involved. But if you'd like your coordinator to just be in the loop to know what's going on, you're certainly welcome to put their name here as well. The due date's pretty self-explanatory. Here's that stage field over here on the right. This is the one where you will make sure that it says proposal. The proposal type, this is where you will select letter proposal, full proposal, or full proposal with fee, because sometimes we do have quals proposals that ask for a fee with them as well. So we have 3 choices for proposal type. The source is where did we get this RFP from? A lot of times you'll see that as public notice, but we do have choices for email or existing client or colleague or any of those. So there's many choices there. The client market, this is related to your primary client. So if you are filling this out for, let's say, Rochester Regional Health, which is a healthcare entity in Rochester. So if that's the primary client, you would then select the client market as healthcare. So those will go hand in hand. The primary project type, this will be, we have many choices in here. If you click on the magnifying glass here on the right, it'll bring up a box and then you hit search. It'll give you all of the choices, which I believe we're up to like 181 choices right now. So if you can't find your project type in that list, please let me know. But pick the one that's the closest for right now if it isn't in there, and then we can add it and go back later and change it. But this would be, like, is it a roof? Is it a renovation? Is it an inpatient facility? We have many, many choices available here for you. Oops. And then down here, the responsibility, this would be if we are the prime, if we're a sub-consultant. So there's a couple choices there for you. One of the newer things that probably wasn't in the video is that we have added a couple more tabs for you to fill out that are required. So the location tab, which is the next tab in sequence, we do have some required fields on this tab now. So you do need to provide the city, state, county, and LaBella region for the project. So this is like the actual location of the project. So for city, you're going to put where the project is happening, same with the state. And then the county, there is a drop down here, and we ask that you choose from the drop down. And it does say that here, please select from drop down. It is right now there's a glitch with this field, unfortunately. And so you can type in the field, but that won't help us for reporting. So we need you to select the ones that we've already pre-populated from the drop down. And like you'll see, like there's 3 different Monroe counties. So there's Monroe County, New York, there's Monroe County, North Carolina, there's Monroe County, Ohio, I think. So like, make sure you're selecting the right one, and the ones that are available for choices do have the state after them, so they will show you. If you are by chance going after an opportunity in a state that we don't have the counties listed, please reach out to me and let me know. We can get those added. Accounting did a great job, and they added many of the states and counties that we work in, but as of course we're expanding and keep going into different areas, not all of them are in there. So if it is missing, please reach out and let me know, and we can get it added, but you could certainly add a note, until we get that situated.
Chris,
There
could I
is-
add, Chris, could I add a little something to bolster what you're talking about?
Sure.
Yeah, so can anybody guess why we have these mandatory fields? I'm going to ask a question for some brave soul this Monday at 11:32 a.m. Oh, there must be one brave person. Why would we have these be mandatory? So marketing can track what we do. Awesome. Thank you. So Excel is essentially a big old database. Sorry, Deltek was built on Excel, and it's a big database. So as a company, as of a couple of years ago, we actually weren't tracking all this information. Now we're really trying to pin down the information that we need to have in order to have a more effective and efficient marketing tracking system, and that affects all of us as project managers. So the more information you put in here, the better. The yellow fields are mandatory. Whenever I'm putting anything in, or anybody I'm working with puts things in, I'm also making sure I put in the address and the zip code, because the more, in the latitude, longitude for that matter, the more information that's in the database. If you have a project coming up in the future and you only remember the street name, but you didn't enter in the street name, you're not going to be able to find it in the system. Likewise, if you're not using the drop down that we set up for the states and the counties, then that information isn't the search function doesn't work properly. So the more you put in here, the better it is, not just for the corporate like marketing as a whole, but also for project managers and people that you're working with on projects. So highly recommend you fill in as much as you can. I know this from experience, not having always filled in all the information, and then I can't find things later. So
Yes, thanks, Kat.
thanks.
And then you'll notice the last highlighted field is the LaBella region. So this is not always typically where the project manager is. This is where the project is. So it could be, maybe there's someone in Buffalo who's leading a project, but the project is actually located in, New York City. So you're going to be selecting the LaBella region where the project is, not where the person is. So, in that example, so the LaBella region, you would select the East, because the New York City falls into the Eastern region. So if you are not familiar with the regions, there is information on the intranet about, what falls into which region. So please be sure that you're also selecting the proper region for those. So here's what a typical request for proposal would look like when it comes in. They all look a little bit different, but this is just an example. So obviously we went over the proposal name should not just be a location or client name. It should give an indication of what you are going to be doing. The LaBella organization, the division within LaBella that is leading the project, and should be the same division as the project manager. Project type, I already mentioned, if there is something missing from the dropdown, please let us know. You can go back and modify things at any time. So once you've made your opportunity and you hit save, it's not like that's it, you're locked in. You can certainly go back and revisit it and make any changes that you need to. And then we do ask that you update the proposal stage as the RFP process progresses. So we do have different stages in there after proposal for, if you're shortlisted, if you have an interview, if it was awarded, was it won or lost? We have all of those choices in there, and we ask that you kind of update it as the process goes along. If your marketing staff is involved in the process, they will usually do that for you, but it's good for you to know that is able to be updated. So here's my actual filled out example, so you can kind of see what this looks like in real life. So here, this was an opportunity I worked on last year with Thompson Bari for RGRTA, which is a local Transportation Authority here in Rochester. So it was for hydrogen buses. Unfortunately, we did not win this one, but we did recently win a new one with them. So that was good. But you can see, so here's my name. I have RGRTA facility assessment for hydrogen buses, and they actually give event numbers for theirs because they do it through a system. So I included the event number here so that I can go back and always know what that was. The LaBella organization in this case was Architecture Rochester. The primary client was the Rochester Genesee Regional Transit Authority. The contact was Justin Fiesel. The principal was Dan Peters as the division director. Thompson Barre was the project manager. I was the coordinator. It was due on September 12th. Here's our stage with such a proposal. And then once it was saved, here you can actually see the P number listed up here in the promotional project field. So if you somehow either lose the email from accounting or you think you didn't get it, you can actually come in here and check to see if they did assign that number to you, and you'll find it here in this field. The proposal type was full proposal with quals and fee. That got cut off there, but it is a quals and fee. The source was public notice. The client market was state agency or MPO because that's what the Transportation Authority is considered. This was for a study planning, so that was our project type. It'll tell you the date that I opened it and then how many days it was open. And then we also put in some additional information here, the estimated project start, the estimated completion, and then our probability of winning it and what we thought our fee was going to be for that. So you can certainly add that information if you have it, and it's always a good tool for us to look at that information if you can provide it. And then we were the prime on the submission. And then on the location tab, you can see we had the city was Rochester because that was where the project was in New York. The county was Monroe, New York. And then the LaBella region was the Rochester region. So that's sort of what it would look like if you were to complete your opportunity. And then this was the go, no go tab that we actually did to determine if we were going to pursue this opportunity. So that spreadsheet that I showed you, we have turned into a tab here in Deltek, and it's the third tab when you're in opportunities. And those 7 questions that I showed you are listed here on the left. And then there's a drop-down choice for those 1, 2, or 3 for your criteria. So you would go through your drop-down, choose your answers, and then make sure that you put your value over here on the right. So if you chose 3, make sure you put 3 here. And then when you hit save, it'll actually sum all the values and give you your rating down here. So our rating was a 2.4. So that's why we decided that this should be a go, even though we ended up losing. But we did, feel like it worked well for us, and it was something that we needed to pursue. So that was what our scoring rating was. Any questions on the go, no go form? Has anybody already used the go, no go form? No. Okay.
Dave,
Okay.
I think Dave put his thumbs up, right?
Oh, I missed it. I'm sorry.
It's not that hard, Dave, right? I mean, it's a, do you want to talk about your experience filling out the go, no go form?
It's not overly complicated.
Yeah.
It's not, there are drop downs to help you through it. So no, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and this is something new that that was added. Gosh, was it last year, Chris? Because we as Chris mentioned, as a company, there's a lot of opportunities we could be going after, but we want to make sure we're going after the right clients, the right projects for the right reasons. So we created this tool to help everybody kind of assess what they're doing, and then if there's any issues, then you can involve other folks. But so far, feedback has been positive.
Yes, and we did find some divisions already had like a go, no go form for their division. Some individuals had their own go, no go kind of form that they did. And everybody sort of has that go, no go like in their head, right? So we just wanted to make a formalized process so that it was all in one place. And then we could go back to that data and say, oh, okay, you know, we could run reports and see, well, how many opportunities are we pursuing, either that are below a 2 or above a 2, and what were the hit rates on those. So there's a lot of information that we can gather by having it in Deltek and being able to track it. So that's why we're asking you to do it sort of in here instead of just in your head. So hopefully you guys find it easy to use and we'll take advantage of it, because it does help along with the process. So why do we need to input so much information? I do get that question asked a lot, and really it's because, you know, like I said, we are running reports. We do want to be able to look at different things based on that information that we're asking you to enter. As Ken mentioned, you know, we might want to know how many proposals we're pursuing just in the Eastern region. And the only way to do that is to really have you fill out those fields for the location. So it's just something that we need to do. And I will say every year, people want more and more data. And unfortunately, the only way to get more and more data is for you to input more and more information. So that's really, you know, what we're trying to do here. We do have a weekly CRM opportunities email that goes out to the division directors, to senior leadership, to the marketing staff, so that we can look at, you know, some of that data and get a sense of, you know, how busy is everybody. You know, we're looking at it for workload, we're looking at it for staffing. So that it's really important to have that information in there. Just general tracking, billing, certainly, you know, we need a lot of that information for accounting and the billing staff. And then also just more efficient. The information gets pulled into the project once it's set up. So anything that you entered in the opportunities screen, when you fill out your PIF, which I don't think you've heard about yet, but it's the project initiation form. If you reference the P number on that PIF, accounting, when you send them the PIF, will go back to that opportunity and they will actually create the project from the opportunity. And all that information that you already put in will then go over to the project. So we don't have to then double enter that information. So it does save on a little bit of time with data entry if we do it once up front. So how to set up the folder once you get the P number. So every P number should have a proposal folder organized by the client name. And currently these are stored on the P drive or the marketing drive. Some of you, I think, have access to the universal drive, which is the same drive. So if there is no folder made for the client, you can make it yourself. Everyone has access to make those folders. The only folders that you're not allowed to create are the project folders. But anything for clients and opportunities, you can make the folders yourself. And then any files related to the proposal should be kept in this folder in an organized manner. I know a lot of times when the marketing staff is setting up the folders, you know, we sort of have a way that we do it. But if you're doing it for a letter proposal, you know, just make sure it's sort of organized with, you know, here's a copy of the RFP, here's the letter we submitted, here's a draft, here's the final, you know, just making sure that all of that stuff is together. So proposal preparation. So one of the things that really is important, at least that I feel with my staff, is holding a proposal kickoff meeting as soon as possible. So we get that RFP in the door, we've looked at it, you know, briefly, and then we need to have that meeting to really discuss the ins and outs of the proposal and if it's a go. Usually the proposal team structures are, you know, there's a couple different ways. If it's multidisciplinary, then obviously we want the PM to collect the scope, schedules, costs from each of the team or the technical leads. And then when responding to the RFPs, you know, marketing is going to lead the effort for formatting, the compilation, the production, and the delivery. And then the tech would also provide the scope, schedule, hours, costs. Like those are things that, you know, we might have a little bit of a sense of, but you are going to know those inside and out. So we need your input on those. If it's a one technical discipline proposal, then typically the technical lead PM prepares the proposal. maybe with some marketing help, but, they're really solely responsible for that if it's just for their discipline. We also need to make sure that we're meeting any MWBE, DBE, or SDVOB requirements if needed. So MBE would be your minority business enterprise. WBE is your women-owned business enterprise. DBE is your disadvantaged business enterprise. And sometimes they can be both an M or a W and a DBE. And then SDVOB, which is your service disabled veteran-owned business requirements. For scoping process and site visits, making sure that we fully read and understand the RFP is really important. We want to make sure that we have a good understanding of what they're actually asking for. And then if we don't have a good understanding, that we can ask the questions that we need to of the client to make sure we respond correctly. Meet and talk with client if you are able to, or submit those questions. Making sure that we have a good understanding of their project vision. And sometimes the best intel is when you go to the site visit, or if you can schedule a one-on-one meeting with the client. Usually they'll divulge some more information that is not in that piece of paper that we received. So those meetings are really important. What does the project have to achieve for it to be successful? Those critical success factors, and then how the client wants to handle change. There's definitely more than one approach to that. Involving the technical leads in scoping. If sub-consultants are key, involve them also. I will tell you, that happens a lot with those multiple disciplinary proposals. Sometimes the project managers will make assumptions for other divisions, and that's not always good because, we might not know if they're super busy and they don't have the staff available, or if something has changed with their structure of pricing for a certain item or something. We might not be aware of that. So it's really good to at least reach out to them and get their weigh in and buy-in on the proposal before moving forward. Same with sub-consultants. If we are using sub-consultants, we always reach out to them. We don't just put somebody on the team because we want to make sure that they are on board and okay with subbing to us, and then getting all of their pertinent information to put into the proposal as well. For projects with field work, I'm going to give Kat's a little safety plug here. Safety starts at the project scoping. What are typical hazards and PPE requirements for this type of project? Are there atypical project elements requiring additional safety measures? Include time costs for items such as HAPs, tailgate meetings, etc. And then some degree of client education on safety may be needed. So just making sure that you're looking at that when you're looking at the proposal. And then also if you are feeing it, making sure that we have that covered in the fee portion.
Of course, if there's any questions, you can always reach out to me. Sorry.
Yes, Kat will be happy to answer. Make sure that you include a project understanding section. This is very helpful because it reiterates to the client that you've read the RFP or that you have a good handle on what they're looking for. But it also just, is able to show them documentation of, if we're showing reference documents such as maps or any graphics, and then really documenting all known unknowns. We do usually include some sort of an assumptions and exclusions list at some point within the RFP, or in the response. So it's always good to have that understanding section there as well. Tight scope assumptions, client owner responsibilities. So limits scope creep. This is the biggest cause of budget overages and change orders, is if, we have that scope creep happen. So making sure that our scopes and language is really tight is good. It also provides justification for additional services. So if we've really documented that we're only doing XYZ and the client says, oh, I thought you were doing, this, we can say, no, we outlined it here, but we're happy to provide that for you at an additional fee. So it's just one of those things that if we have it all spelled out, there's no questions. Consider additional services tasks, if that is how the client wants to manage change. Scope and assumptions from technical leads and subs, if applicable. Assumptions are critical if there are any uncertainty. Examples, the number of meetings, days, hours per day, those types of things. And then, as mentioned, for projects with field work, include scope for safety and equipment.
Chris, if I could just add one thing. So just as a personal story, I will share, and hopefully by the end of this training, everybody understands this. Life is a learning process. Becoming a project manager is a learning process, and we've all made mistakes and goofed on things. There was a project that I had that I inherited from somebody several years ago, where the proposal scope simply said, will attend, required meetings and provide, revisions to the contract documents, yada, yada, yada. It was like very simple, seemingly straightforward statement in the proposal. I inherited this job after it was already started, but what had happened is for some clients, that language might be okay, but for the purposes of making sure that they understand exactly what we are understanding that we're providing to them, saying things like, 52 meetings during the course of construction that are 2 to 3 hours long. Sometimes you need to get into details like that, because for that one project, we lost our shirts. We didn't specify exactly how many revisions, how much time we were setting aside for revisions. We didn't specify the number of meetings. And that client was incredibly needy. And we lost a lot of money because we had no contractual leg to stand up on. And that particular client was incredibly, 5, 6, 7 rounds of revisions. And because we hadn't said we'll do 1 round of revisions for X amount of fee, we were caught between a rock and a hard place. So the guidance that Chris is providing, sometimes it may not always be immediately obvious why we're suggesting doing things. And if you ever have any questions, please reach out to us. But these guidelines are here because many of us have had painful experiences in the past, and we don't want you to go through the same painful experience.
Yes.
Thanks.
So schedule, a lot of times, we will include a schedule in the proposal, and providing a schedule in a table or in text, making sure that the technical leads and the subs have bought into the schedule is always important. Sometimes clients are very vague on either starting or ending of a project, and so we have to make some assumptions there. But we do need to, sort of make sure that we're providing at least a general schedule, and that it fits in with our workload schedule as well. Consider inclusion of language regarding how the schedule may change based on provision of documents, regulators, etc., or if there is a time restriction on the proposal. Budgeting and billing. This is not always required at the proposal stage, but more and more frequently we're seeing it asked for at the proposal stage. So using a budget spreadsheet to calculate costs and get buy-in from the team. Lump sum only for well-defined scopes, no uncertainties, otherwise use time and materials. Include project management time, more than one approach for this. Not all divisions do it. So it's really, making sure that you have an understanding of what your division director or, senior staff would like you to do. But we do typically include a markup for subs, 10 to 15%, and percentage may be client or project specific as well. So some markets, if you're in the K-12 market, we typically don't have a lot of subs on those projects. So we don't have as much markup typically. But if you're in the higher ed or healthcare market, maybe, you have a higher markup. So it really just depends on sort of the situation and the client. And then include costs for safety, field equipment, vehicle use or mileage, and other reimbursables. And know your client too, because some have very strict contract language for if they will accept reimbursables or not. Like on the K-12 side, we can only reimburse for mileage. We can't reimburse for meals or anything else. So it's just good to know, to make sure that you also have an understanding of sort of what their requirements are. A lot of times they'll submit a sample contract for review. So make sure you're looking at that and just aware of some of those things. So next is the marketing coordinator responsibilities. So if this is, a proposal where marketing is involved, we will help you to stay on schedule to meet the client's specified deadline. And these are really important when we have those kickoff meetings. Usually I go through, when we need a draft due, when the final needs to go out, when we have to, make sure it gets to the client based on their due date. And I will tell you, just from personal experience, within the last couple years since COVID, we have had a lot of issues with UPS, FedEx, and getting proposals to clients by their due dates. There's actually been a few where we have not made the deadline, unfortunately, and it's really just because of courier services that we're using. So if we build into the schedule some extra time for that delivery or making sure that things get there, it's really important that you guys follow those schedules, because if we miss that schedule and then it goes out later and then it doesn't get there, we've just wasted all of that time and money. And as I said, between $10,000 and $15,000 to put together one of these proposals, we really don't want that to happen. So it's really important to meet those schedules that we've put together. And agree with that with your marketing coordinator, making sure that you guys are working on a legitimate and realistic time schedule. But we will take care of the cover, the tabs, all the firm information, putting together resumes and project sheets. Now, sometimes we do need to get other information from you to do those pieces. If this is a particular project that we don't have a resume for you, maybe it's a very specialty service or project type, we'll need to get information from you and others to update the resumes. Same with project sheets. If we don't have those projects already created, we'll need some help from you to get those. But typically we would take the lead on getting that all pulled together. We'll compile into one complete uneditable PDF. We'll make the required hard copies and deliver or email upload as necessary. And then before it leaves the office, really, we will also look at, do a full QA/QC review for tone, technical content, including assumptions, contractual and RFP content, making sure that we're meeting all of the things that they're looking for. And then, as mentioned, to Track and Deltek, we'll put the proposal link in the Opportunity Links tab and update the stage as it progresses through the process. So, again, when we're building the schedule, we want to build in that time for that QA/QC review, because if we're working up to the last second before we're uploading it, we don't have time to look it over and make sure that we've completed everything, that everything is the way it's supposed to be. So we really need to have that time built into the schedule as well. So the letter proposal. So this is a little bit different. As I mentioned, most of the time marketing is not fully involved with the letter proposal, but we're happy to help out with those if you're needed. But a lot of times project managers do them themselves. So you're going to use your proposal letterhead, and then typically the contents would include just making sure that you list the proposal number somewhere, the billing client information, such as the project description and location. You're going to have a understanding, a scope, a schedule, a fee, and reimbursable section usually. And then additional services is necessary. And then reference to or inclusion of an agreement. Sometimes this is our terms and conditions or our professional services agreement, which I believe Sue will talk a little bit more in the next session about, but we do talk a little bit about that here. And then exhibits, if appropriate, to document project understanding. And again, please note, for projects involving field work, scope should include a budget for safety, the health and safety plan, etc., and equipment. So where can you find the correct letterhead? Well, the letterhead from any office location can be found on the intranet, and there is a link here, but it's under the operations forms section. And then in the middle, there's a drop down for letterhead, and we have a list of all of the office locations. So if you're sending the letter from Greenville, North Carolina, there's one in there, so you'll find it. So here's sort of a sample of what the letter would look like with the P number. So always include the P number in the regards subject line. So here we have proposal for professional services, survey and stakeout at the L534 Beer Tap location. And then the LaBella proposal number is P number 22000789. So this is just sort of how it would look when you set up. So you have your date, you have who the client is, and then your salutation. So just make sure that you're including all of that information there. Marketing expectations. So we always like to make sure that we're overseeing the branding, the formatting, proofreading after the PM writes the proposal. Usually start from a shell in most cases, but we can help you with all of those things. And then making sure the client contact is correct, exporting the Word doc to a PDF and renaming the file if necessary, and combining with the professional services agreement. Again, more to come in the next session on that. So here's sort of an example of what the letter proposal looks like. So here's our professional services agreement, the first couple pages. So you can see we filled out, you know, here's LaBella and here's who the client is going to be. And then here's the proposal. And then the signature page, and make sure that you're always leaving the signature page blank. But Sue will go over that. But we don't want to sign it first. You always want the client to sign it first, and then we would sign it afterwards. But then you have your exhibit A, and this is where your proposal will go. So this is just a sample of sort of how that looks. This was actually a resubmission of our proposal with some changes, but you can get the gist of what it looks like. In the different sections, we have the fee section, and then there's an acceptance section, and then the signature page. And then we have our terms and conditions is exhibit B, and that just goes through all of that. So does anybody have any questions? You can feel free to shout them out or put them in the chat.
Has everybody here worked on a proposal? Oh, look here, we got a question. Yes, we will have a short bathroom break. This is actually probably a good time for a short bathroom break.
Sure, we could do
Is that okay? Is that okay, Chris? Yeah.
That is fine.
All right, let's take, what do you want to take, like a 10-minute bathroom break, Kat?
Yeah, I think 10 minutes is good. And then when we come back, we can go over those questions. And then maybe while people are could just kind of think about proposals that they've worked on, and maybe could share some insights or their experience on proposals that they've seen or that they've done themselves. That would be great.
All right, we'll see everyone back at 12:14.
All right, well, we're back. So we did have a couple questions in the chat. Carl, I saw you had a question on the how should we handle a multiple site project proposal location such as a community solar batch? So that's a great question, and I did I kind of glossed over that part. I'm sorry about that. So on the location tab, when we ask you to select the county, there is actually an option here. If you go all the way to the top, that says statewide. So if it's in multiple counties in a particular area, you can just choose statewide. And for the city and state, obviously you want to put the state, but for the city, if it spans multiple cities, you could put various in this spot. So there is a little help. These little icons here are the help buttons. If you click on this, it actually brings up a little pop-up box, and it does say, if your city town is unknown at this time, please type XX in the box. If your project crosses multiple cities or towns, please type in the primary or type the word multiple or various, whichever works. But so there is a little help box there to help you answer that question. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you. And then should the logo and branding, fonts, etc., be applied to PSA's subconsultants agreements? So currently, the documents as you see them are what legal has provided to us. So I know the branding standards group is looking at all of our documents across the board. I would bring that up to them, but I don't know from a legal standpoint If there's a reason why they couldn't be, branded LaBella, I'm not sure. But we will certainly look at that, and it's probably on somebody's list already. It just hasn't been gotten to yet. So, while I have you guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to shout them out or put them in the chat. But I also wanted to show the intranet page, which, if you haven't heard, is actually going to be changing very soon. It's coming within the next few weeks, but I'm going to show you right now where some of these resources are located for you so that you can see them. So under the marketing tab, you'll see CRM Central. If you click on this link, it'll bring you to the CRM page, and this is where you will find all those handy resources I talked about. The video is down here in the middle, and we do have timestamps available if you only need a refresher on a certain section. Like if you wanted to just see how to pull an opportunity and proposal number, you can go to the timestamp, and you don't have to watch the whole video and hear me talk again. So feel free to use those. And then here's those deep dive resources that I mentioned. If you were entering a golf tournament, contact addresses, any of these things, how to do an activity. When we ask you during the holidays to add your clients and contacts for receiving holiday gifts, we have a deep dive on that. So many, many things here to read. So make sure you peruse those. And then the manual is here also toward the bottom. And then we also have some frequently asked questions. So you can see those, and those will still be on the new intranet. We've already set up this page, so it'll look very similar. And then over here on the right is the help button. So if you click on the flag it, it'll actually bring up this little form so you can fill in your name, your division, your location, and then what you're kind of needing help with. And then you can also give us more details. And like I said, when you hit submit, it goes to myself and to Beth, and we will look at those and get back to you on whatever is needed. And then over here is the operations page where we mentioned. So if you go to operations forms, here's where you will find many helpful links, but down here toward the bottom, here's your legal with your agreements and things, and then project forms and tools. You have billing rates, we have the PIF template, all of those things are here. And then down here in the template section is where you will find letterhead. If you click on this, it will expand to a very lengthy list as we now have 30 some odd offices, and all of the letterhead is located here. So if you click on the one that you need, it'll then download it for you and give you a Word document to work with. So that is where the letterhead is. Yes, I see there's a hand.
Hey, Chris, it's John. Sorry, my camera doesn't work. It freezes every
Oh,
time.
no problem. Hi, John.
So your letterheads, is there one for Maine, or we don't have one yet? Just throwing it out there. I know.
I believe there is not one for Maine at the moment because it's just a PO box, I believe, is the actual mailing address. So I can look into that, but I don't think we have one as of yet.
Okay, because I know Sean's also on the call today. I mean, me and him are, we're starting to get a lot of trying to do some other business that's not embedded with Avon Grid through the Augusta office.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can check on that for you. No problem.
Yeah, thanks.
So, so we can follow up after this. Also, the letterheads are provided for like official LaBella office locations. And I believe currently the main, we'll have to follow up, but currently like the main facility, because it's a PO box, it's not an official like physical office location. So that may be why we don't have one for that one yet.
Yeah,
Right.
no problem. We both, work from home. So for me, I've been putting on like any letter proposal, just putting my home address. That's kind of, and Sean does the same thing for now. So.
Okay.
Thanks.
But you could also find here too, meeting minutes, agendas, memos. We have the PowerPoint template, report cover, transmittal letters. So all of that stuff is down here in the template section for you. Anybody else have any other questions? Kat, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think we're good. No, good questions. Did anybody want to share any experiences they've had working on proposals or any other, any even like nitty gritty picky questions about proposals, putting them together? Questions about language usage?
So I had a question that I think I sent into the help after I watched the segment the other day, but for developer clients, it's typical to have these like single purpose entities for their project ownership. And so, and we may be, our contract may be with that single purpose entity, right? So I didn't evidently enter that information correctly in the Deltec to get that kind of association. So I went back looking for the client and, I had to go and find the single purpose entity to find that, but I don't know if that's something that is easily managed in CRM or not.
So that's actually a great question, and I did look into this a little for you, Carl. So I did find the record that you entered for, hopefully it'll pop up here in a second. There you go, for LSB 7 Hills, says the developer. And I saw that you put parent company. So there is a function in Deltec that we are going to be turning on. I've been working with Stacy with it. We just wanted to make sure we had looked at all of the implications of doing it, because kind of once we turn it on, we can't turn it off kind of thing. But there is a hierarchy way in Deltec to have a parent company and then have subsidiaries under it. So soon you will actually be able to assign, like if 7 Hills is the parent company, you will be able to assign them and then link the subsidiaries to them. It's not live at the moment, but eventually that's why there's actually this little people thing here at the top. Like if you clicked on this, it actually would then show like all the subsidiaries under them. So we are working on that, but we currently don't have it. So for right now, we would just enter them each as their own company or client, like you did for LSB. And then if you have a related client, but that's like who they're billing or direct proposals going to, you would just add them currently as a new client. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. We're not there yet with this potential client, but I just tried searching for focus and I couldn't find them, so it was.
Yeah, I did that too, and they didn't come up. The only thing that came up was there was another record for MM and focus. So I don't know if maybe you didn't save it or if something happened.
I just don't think I created, other than in that address field, the care of focus development. So I didn't create a company, which I guess I would have to do. They would just be floating out there. I don't know, unless I can associate them with that proposal.
Yes, you can link them to the proposal in the
And we're down in the weeds, probably boring most of the people on this.
That's a good question. That's a good example.
This is actually a question that comes up quite a bit, that I can show you in the, so if you have your primary client here, you can actually add other clients and contacts on the client contacts page. So in this case, if RGRTA is the owner, but you want to associate another client, maybe they're, have some interaction with this project or proposal, you can add them here on this screen as well. So then both will show up. And we have other choices for the roles. We do have developer as one of them, client manager, general contractor. Like you can list all of these different people or organizations in here, so that it is tracked for that particular project or opportunity. So you know who's all involved.
Great, thanks.
Sure. And then just to also reiterate, so you guys should be looking at your employee record pretty frequently. I would, make sure that you're looking at that and keeping it up to date. But like if I bring up my employee record, you can see obviously your general information, that's not going to change, your title, your organization, all those things. But then on the experience tab, this is where you're going to list your education, all of your licenses, and make sure that you're updating the expiration dates and things of those. Actually, like I just renewed my notary, so this is now 2027. She's not going to easily let me just do that. So, but you can certainly update all of that information and any new licenses that you might have, making sure that you are adding those so that we know who's licensed in what areas. And then, adding your skills, any memberships that you have or awards that you may have won, making sure that those are updated. And then you can always see your project information on the projects tab. And this is anything that you've charged time to. And you can sort these headings by just clicking on them. So here, you can sort by number. And then if you do the refresh hours here on the right, you can actually see how much time you've spent on each project. So that's always good. And then CRM info, this is again where you're going to find all of those activities that you've logged. So here in your activities grid, and then any opportunities that are associated with you are going to be down here in the opportunities section. So if you entered something and then you can't find it, go to your employee tab and you probably will be able to find it from here. There's also a links and the resumes and other associations. When you enter a new client or contact, you're going to show up. They're going to show up here in your list because you were associated with them for having created them. But if it's somebody else creating them for you, usually we remove ourselves so that's not the person. But anything that any people or organizations you want to be associated with can be on this tab as well. So I just wanted to give you a quick rundown on that. Yes.
Chris, there's a chat, a question in the chat about a universal list of items to be stocked in offices regarding printing for hand delivery of proposals, and is there a list available for people to reference?
I don't think there is a universal list, and not all of our offices have the printing or binding capability that we do in some of the other offices, like North Carolina and Charlotte, they have a binding machine and a very high-tech printer and those kind of things. And so as we do in Rochester and Latham and Buffalo. So it's really, I know we're not set up to print and bind in all offices. And in those cases, sometimes we have to send it out to a commercial printer to get printed for us, like a Kinko's or I think it's through FedEx now, but so any of those organizations to do the printing and binding for us. But a lot of times, if you don't have those capabilities, usually you're working with an office that has that capability and they will do it for you. So we've done that here in Rochester, where we will print and bind and send out something for another office that might not have that capability. So I don't have a general list. So we can talk offline about that.
Erin, you're in Glens Falls, right?
Sorry, yes, I'm in Glens Falls. We've done some printing for proposals, that we hand deliver to the North Country, but, I'm relatively new. So I was like hunting down these like dividers and I found the embossed, paper for the hard copies. And like when they want like the jump drives, when they want electronically on a jump drive, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, I just wonder, there's some kind of like, must be this, these are the things you need to order, yada, yada. But I mean,
that's a good question. So maybe that's something we can follow up with you on that.
Okay,
thanks. If you're in Glens Falls, you could probably work with Nicole or somebody, and they could kind of provide that guidance too, I think. But we can chat about that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
But I appreciate the question because, at the end of the day, we are trying to have a consistent look, feel, both in terms of the document formatting, the colors, the materials that we're using, everything should look the same. I did want to mention that we are working on a letter proposal template, which is pretty close. The look and feel is very similar to what we have already, but it kind of already has those sections outlined, the project understanding and scope, schedule, fee and whatnot. So that will be coming out at some point, but.
Yeah, so there was another question about, is there a reason advantage to using the email function within Deltek? So unfortunately, this is sort of a, I don't have a really great answer for this at the moment, because in our current version of Deltek, the email function does not work as we would like it to be, because it's not currently integrated with Outlook. So we are able to set up some functionality for notifications and rules and things, but the reminders and some of the other functionality that we would like it to do, it does not currently do, because it's not integrated with Outlook. So hopefully in the next version of Deltek, which we hope to upgrade to soon, that has Outlook integration. So that's sort of the short answer at the moment.
We also have a question from John.
Yes. Oh, thanks, Ann. I know you were talking earlier before the break, right before we ended, about the proposals folder and within the marketing folder. And then I noticed there's a big Avangrid that says "do not use." So is that because a lot of the proposals I would do are just letter proposals? Is that, do they have to go on the Avangrid secured folder? Is that why? Okay.
That is why. Yes, some of our
Right.
clients, and that's a good point to bring up, John. Thank you.
Yeah. No
So
problem.
yeah, so
Thank
some
you.
of our clients have restrictions or requirements that we keep all of their information in a secured or encrypted file. And so we've set up different files for those particular clients. And hopefully if you're working with those clients, you know who they are that need those. Avangrid is one of them. But yes, you would need specific access, and IT only gives like access to those people. So if you are working with a client who has some restrictions on security, or needs, wants to make sure that all of their documents are in a secure location, reach out to IT, and there's a specific approval process to make sure that you are approved to have access to those and such. So, so yes, that is, if you can't find a client on there, or if there is like a note like that, reach out to your marketing staff or someone, and they can help you with that too.
If you need access to Ava too, make sure you copy Allison Cutt. She approves it.
Yes.
Access.
One other note about proposals. I know that hopefully everybody knows at this point you've received some sort of communication from your divisions, but we are working on within the next 2 weeks, finishing up the move of all technical resources, regulations, rules, design standards and such from all the individual servers and folders on the A drive, and they're all being moved into the new technical library. And there have been some questions during that process regarding division. Some divisions do have folders where they store proposals. In case anybody encounters this or is wondering, so all proposals that are sent out to clients have to be saved in a proposal folder and in the project management folder. That's where we save, for a project. Once we get the project, that's where the proposals have to be. So we have the record in the project folder. But some divisions do also have a reference folder that they use to keep examples of like projects of proposals that they really liked or that were very successful that they want to use as templates. Those are, that location is different than the actual proposal P drive proposal number folder that Chris was showing earlier. I just wanted to make sure everybody understands that, but it's important that all the proposals for jobs that we do get, that they make it into the project management folder. So, look, another question. Devin, good questions. Okay, let's see. Is there a reason advantage to using those? So this one you did already.
Future trainings cover reporting related to opportunities. Are there reports that are helpful for PMs to build and favorite? So once you've gone through this training and once accounting sets you up with their the PM access, there are some standard reports, I believe, and Jackie, I know you're on, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there are some standard reports that would show up on your dashboard, and they would go through all of those with you. And then if there's specific reports that you are looking for your projects, they could help you build those and maintain those on your dashboard.
Plug
Jackie.
opportunity, Kat.
Yes, yeah. So the trainings that we do through the PM sessions are very standard, but we do have a Dell Tech deep dive that I am planning to go over how to create, favorite reports and how to customize things. So if you are interested in doing that, I believe that's scheduled for next Tuesday. Thank you. Okay, yeah, next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So if you're interested in signing up for that, you can sign up for that.
Nice. Is that through LaBella U, that one? Or is that
It's through
Okay.
LaBella U. It's on the main,
Okay.
main calendar. It's on the main calendar. And what we're trying to do with the PM program, big picture, is we have this training program that we do. We're also now moving into kind of like the next phase. Where we're setting up supplemental sessions for certain topics that people have expressed an interest in getting more information on. And this is one of them, because Jackie will go through general dashboard setup and reports when she comes to her session. But what she's doing next week is for people who've either been through the training or kind of want to get a head start. She can kind of do real time on the screen and show you how to do some of these things. So there should be more of those coming up.
Yeah, that's great. And I can also, if you guys, I know all of you just watched the video, but if you have additional questions or, don't want to bring them up here, I will be having a CRM refresher session in September as well. I believe it's the 19th. It's after the back to school thing go underway. Yeah, I believe it's on the 19th. That is on the calendar on the intranet. So feel free to sign up for that if you have additional questions or would like me to cover anything more specific to you in that session. Usually there's less people and it's a little bit easier to go through specific things. So I'm happy to do that as well. And we'll be doing those quarterly going forward. So if you don't want to come in September, there'll be another one probably toward the end of the year, beginning of next. So don't worry, there's always opportunities.
Great. All right, I don't see any more chats. I'm seeing more hands raised. So I think we're good. As was the case last week, Heather will send a follow-up email to all the attendees, and we will include a link to the PowerPoint that Brittany was not able to present in person today. I think that and then if next week, if there's any questions or if you have any questions after you review that, send them on to us, and then we can make sure that they get answered. But I'm appreciative of everybody being here. Thank you all for putting your cameras on. Appreciate so I can see everybody's faces. I like to learn who people are. I actually like to travel between the different offices. And so when I come, it's nice to say, oh, that's so-and-so. I saw them on the screen. So appreciate it very much. And we look forward to seeing you at the next session.
Yes, thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.